This week on Painting Lines.
The record for the most seeds to lose round one.
Usually you watch a Sinner match and you're like, this guy just doesn't miss. And today he was just a little bit wild.
Fonseca is overhyped. Like all the hype should be for Mensik.
Ready?
Welcome back to another episode of Painting Lines. Last week we gave a little Wimbledon draw preview, and this week we're going to see how some of those predictions have held up and break down the first week for you here at Wimbledon. And for those of you watching on YouTube, check out the new Painting Lines hat. Pretty sweet. We actually should have the store live by the end of the week. And as always, feel free to like and subscribe if you're enjoying the show. We just hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, so we're pretty excited to keep it going.
100%. Yeah. And actually, Eric, I know you were at Wimbledon earlier this week. So do you want to just kick us off with some of your experiences while you were there?
Yeah, I will. That was an unreal experience. So I didn't have tickets. I queued up and I showed up at 5 p.m. The day before I wanted to go. Like had a tent, sleeping bag, whole 9 yards. And I'm thinking, all right, if I get there at 5 p.m., I'll at least be, within the first 500, get a center court ticket. Well, I wasn't, got my cue card, number 703. Didn't really sleep much. There was like a constant flow of people coming at all hours of the night to queue up. So I got out of my tent at like 4 a.m. and it was already daylight, and you can just see the whole field where everyone queues up, just filled with people. The energy was immediately like there. You could just feel it. I was so pumped up. So then at like 6 a.m., they start telling you to pack up, and I basically queued up until 9 a.m. I decided on court two over court one, just with the intention of like, all right, maybe there's more value there, there's more matches. Um, Kind of regret that because that was an insane Draper match on court one. But, anyways, the matches were great. So we started off, I saw Mensik versus Jerome. That's where I kicked off my day. And I gotta say, Mensik, he looked a lot skinnier in person. Like when you watch him on TV, he looks like a big ass dude. But he like maybe it was just compared to Jerome, who was like built like a bulldog almost, those massive quads. Like Mensik just looked a little skinny. Then we went over to Deminar and Kazo. That was like kind of the highlight match on court two, at least during the day. And I gotta say, for Kazo's size, he can rip serves. He was serving like 130 miles an hour. It was
Jeez.
insane. Yeah. And it was cool to see that match because I had never seen Deminar in person. I feel like he was, one of the only guys in the top 20 that I hadn't seen yet. So got to see him, and you already know when Deminar's playing, the Australian crowd gets into it. So it was good to see, like the Aussie, 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 oi, oi, oi chant going on. A lot of French people in there too, like allez auteur, allez auteur. So just great, great crowd atmosphere. And then after that one kicked off some doubles. I want to see some doubles because when we went to the US Open and saw Thompson and who was it? Thompson and Purcell, right? Against Borges. Yeah, that kind of just like reignited my interest in doubles. So I saw Tien and Kovacev, Kova,
Kovacevic?
Kovacevic, exactly. Two Americans wanted to see them. They did not get a win. I don't know who they were playing. It was kind of like a pure doubles specialist. So I didn't really know the guys. Um, then went over to Opelka and Nakashima, another All-American match. And this was insane to see Opelka serves in person. Like they were gas. And I was sitting very close because it was on a small court. So you can get like right up there. And he's even bigger in person. Like insane. Then ended up getting center court tickets through the resell. You can basically go put your name in a queue, and when people who have center court tickets leave, you can essentially buy their tickets for a discounted rate. So it was like 30 euros. So ended up on center court watching Sinner and Vukic. Had a great seat because I was in the back, so I can see Sinner from the rear, like which is just unreal to see how hard he hits the ball, hearing the echo in center court, and he just manhandled them on there. So I caught two sets of that, then went over to Shelton Hijikata. This one was a great match, just all around. I'll talk about it a little more because it is my match of the week. But all around, man, like Wimbledon was a great experience, unreal. Like I really hope I get to go again in the future.
Sounds pretty awesome, to be honest. I mean, the queue not excellent, but other
Yeah.
than that, pretty good.
I was gonna say, yeah, maybe next time I go, hopefully I have tickets.
Yeah. But you ready to hop into some other parts of the tournament so far?
Yeah, let's kick off this episode. Let's start with some upsets like we normally do. I feel like there were a ton this week. Not I feel, there were a lot. It actually tied the record for the most seeds to lose round one in a slam since 2001. So let's start off with Zverev and Rinderknech. This one, Zverev just seemed flat. Like he came out there, and it was really unfortunate because after the match, he went on in the press conference to just kind of say that he's not really finding much joy, not only in tennis, but in life. And it kind of reminded me of what he was saying after his Australian Open loss to Sinner, where he's just like, I don't know what to do out there. Like, this isn't fun for me anymore. So just like sad to see it because this guy should not be losing round one against Rinderknech.
Yeah, 100%. Speaking on him being flat out there, like he just honestly looked like the worst player of the two guys. Like Rinderknech was being way more proactive out there and was just bringing the match to him, and Zverev was just like, "Well, I might lose."
Yeah, and it's pretty odd to see him go out first round because he was having a pretty good grass season. I mean, he semied Halle and finaled Stuttgart. So you were kind of thinking, all right, he's got some matches under his belt, some wins. He's coming in with confidence, but that was just not the case here.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if he's not really motivated, it's tough to grind out a 5 set match.
Right. And then let's talk about Runa. He loses to Jari. And I don't know, Jari was playing pretty well here. I wouldn't say that it was like mostly Runa playing like crap. I think Jari like stepped up and beat him pretty well. Jari's having a great tournament or was having a great tournament. Had a nice win against Fonseca, but his time at Wimbledon came to an end to Cam Norrie a couple of days ago. But I think grass just suits Jari's game very well. He hits a big serve, hits a nice flat ball that just kind of skids off the grass. So I don't know if we're seeing a Jari resurgence or we're just seeing him play well on grass.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, right? I mean, you see one good tournament run, you don't want to say that's immediately like this guy's back.
Mhm. Don't want to jump the gun. And then Musetti, this one was extremely disappointing. He loses first round to Basia Javal.
Vasilishvili.
Dude, you nailed that. I was like, this
Well,
is
he's
way
a
too
former
many.
top player, I
I was
think,
gonna
from
say, yeah,
like 8
he,
years ago.
yeah, he was. He's just a guy that like I feel like he's in every tournament, like every slam, just based off name recognition. Like he was a qualifier here though, so he had to qualify.
Wow.
This was crazy because it's kind of not as unexpected as you would think because Musetti had that injury in Roland Garros, like didn't really play much on grass. So it's like, all right, either the injury kind of kept him out. I know he had some tape or wrap on his thigh, so could have been that. Just very disappointing though.
Yeah, and it was only 4 sets, right?
Yeah, it was. It was.
Yeah, so I mean, it definitely you'd think that injury probably hampered him, especially because like he was a semifinalist last year, and I do think that we maybe had too high of expectations. I mean, I remember I was like, okay, maybe he beats Sinner in this tournament, or maybe he makes this massive run, but it didn't end up going that way. And I'd like to think that it was more based on something that I couldn't predict.
Yeah, yeah, I know. And then how about this one? Medvedev losing to Bonzi. And this we get an all-time Medvedev quote. He like during the match, he says, why not play like this every day? Win millions of dollars, be rich. No, he decides to do it once a year against me.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
I,
Awesome, Medvedev.
I feel like it's just the classic Medvedev. He's like, damn, like people always play their best against me. I think part of it is probably Medvedev's style of game gives opponents the chance to play well against them because he gives them a lot of flat baseline balls. But yeah, it does seem like he did Bonzi stepped up to the plate here.
Yeah, and Medvedev was also quoted saying this. So he doesn't seem concerned with his level. He said, I'd be very worried if not for Halle tournament where I played well and managed to be in the final, playing at a great level. And then he kind of basically went on to say, I'm summarizing here, that he chalked it up to Bonzi just playing really well. And he was actually watching the match where it was Bonzi against Hallis in Halle, and he would play the winner. And he said Bonzi couldn't make a ball in, like he couldn't make more than 3 shots. So he was just surprised, I guess. And, I kind of feel this. Like, it's not like he's playing terribly. He's just got pretty unlucky here.
Yeah, sometimes players just have their day.
Exactly. All right, let's get into some other seeded upsets. I would say like the guys we just mentioned were the headline upsets. These are other guys that are definitely worth mentioning. We got Tsitsipas. He was the 24th seed, but we got to mention him. I mean, he would have been one of those headline upsets maybe a year ago, definitely 2 years ago, but he's just not where he needs to be right now. And then his coach, I don't think they're still working together after this, but even Esovich what came out and said that Tsitsipas was the most unprepared player he's ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like when you look at Tsitsipas, he's very much a clay rat at this point. Like he gets a lot of his points from the clay tournaments, and then he maybe does a great run in a random hard court tournament, and you're like, okay, where is this guy's level? Like he played great. Where was it? Dubai earlier this year?
Mm-hmm.
And then other than that, what's he been doing this year?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I can't tell you what he's been doing, but he's been injured. I know that he's been talking about his back, just unlucky. I don't know how much longer he'll go on because just like Zverev, he's kind of giving those negative antidotes about I'm just not liking it anymore. I'm not having fun out there. Like something needs to change. So we'll see. Either something will change and he's got to get healed first. But if he doesn't, then I could just see this as like a long, slow, painful death where he's just declining in the rankings, gets to the point where he's not even qualifying for slams anymore. And at that point, I feel like he's got to hang it up because he's been at the top of the game, and I don't think he has like the bandwidth
Vavrinka.
to
He
just
doesn't have the Vavrinka in him.
yeah, well, he hasn't even been at that level as Wawrinka. He hasn't won
Yeah.
a slam.
Yeah.
So the humility that Wawrinka and even Andy Murray have, like I just don't think Tsitsipas is built the same way.
100%. Yeah. He can't go back to like playing in challengers and stuff.
No, 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 no. And then we got Bublik losing to Munar. Bublik, I don't even know what to say here.
Yeah. This was a one that like it wouldn't have been that worth mentioning until a month ago when Bublik beats Sinner and wins the tournament in Hollow,
Mhm.
right? Like
Yeah.
obviously that's a massive win for him. And we're like, oh my God, going into Wimbledon, so much momentum, and then he loses in the first round.
Yeah, this is just typical Bublik too. Munar though, that was pretty nuts. I mean, he's Spanish kind of clay guy playing well on grass.
Yeah, definitely a surprise.
Yeah, and then lastly, we got Berrettini losing to Aiden. I'm gonna let you say this one, Matrak,
March Jack. I don't know. I don't know how to say it.
Dude, these Eastern European names
Yeah,
have
if it's
way too many
Machak,
vowels.
it could be Machak. I don't know. Something like that.
Yeah,
I mean, looking at the name, just you look at JCHRZ. How do you pronounce that
yeah,
one?
that's a tough one.
But anyway, yeah, I just feel like this one's worth mentioning because obviously Berrettini, former finalist at Wimbledon, and a guy that has, yeah, obviously played well on grass in the past, and is just out in the first round here. And I feel like even though he's not a top seed right now, it's still pretty disappointing.
Definitely. And there were a few other upsets too that kind of seeded, but not as highly ranked that we don't really feel the need to mention. But speaking of played well on grass in the past, let's talk about Chilich. What a run from him. He had that huge upset against Draper in round two. I thought he was going to cruise into the quarters, but he ends up losing to Caboli, which I don't know. Were you surprised about this, or did you think that he was also going to make it to the quarters?
Well, I feel like obviously you think that Draper's going to win that first match, uh, but after Chilich won, you see it as a positive where you're like, okay, yes, it's you can kind of see where how Chilich got it done because he's done well. He's made a Wimbledon final in the past in I believe 2017 and lost to Federer. But then you look at the rest of his run, you're like, yeah, he made this massive upset, but that doesn't guarantee that he's at the level of Draper, right? It's like he was just good in that one match. So I didn't know where he was going to go. I wouldn't have been shocked if he lost his next match and doesn't end up making it all the way to the quarters. But I just think it's probably a good sign for him. Just a positive feeling that he's able to still compete and beat these top players.
Yeah, this was one. I actually watched the Draper Chilich match on the hill. So I wasn't in the stadium, but there were a bunch of Brits out there, obviously just in agony, kind of thinking like, all right, this is the time to bet on Draper. Like, sweet, he's behind. Now we got good odds on him, but it just did not pay out. And I feel like there was a lot of pressure on him too. He had very high hopes coming in. I feel like he had the same pressure that Andy Murray had back when he was at the top of the game. Like, all right, all the Brits needed a British guy to win Wimbledon. It was just kind of like in his destiny. And I feel like that was a lot of weight on his shoulders.
100%. Yeah.
And then let's talk about Sinner too. So I want to talk about Sinner and Alcaraz. So before today, before the match against Dimitrov, Sinner was dominating. He had only dropped 17 games through the first three matches. He actually ties the record for the fewest games lost in the first three rounds in Wimbledon. Federer, he had 19 games in 2004, so beats him there. He was looking unstoppable, and that's why this record, I guess, only goes through the first three games because he was not looking unstoppable today. He was about to get beat by Dimitrov.
Yeah, that match was definitely going pretty one-sided, honestly. I mean, yes, it was relatively close. Sinner had moments, but he just wasn't at his normal level where like usually you watch a Sinner match and you're like, this guy just doesn't miss. He always puts it like right near the line. And today he was just a little bit wild. He was just missing shots, unforced errors. And then Dimitrov just comes up. I mean, he almost looked like he got injured earlier where he went for a low ball and kind of twisted his ankle, but was able to recover from that and then goes into the third set and reaches for a volley and looked honestly like he pulled his pec or tore his pec, which is not a injury I feel like is common in tennis, but still just really disappointing for him given the fact that he's now pulled out of I think 5 slams in a row with an injury. And
Yep, it's a record.
it's not the record you want to have. And just crazy that he plays at such a high level and then his body lets him down.
I know, I know. So Sinner gets very lucky. He gets a retirement from Dimitrov after being down 2 sets. So he's basically living on borrowed time here. And I wonder if this was a case of Sinner taking Dimitrov too lightly after he like has been waxing him the last couple times they played. Remember, the match that comes to mind is the Miami Open a couple
Yeah,
years ago where he just like demolished him. And that wasn't
100%.
even prime Sinner.
Yeah, that was Sinner kind of on the rise still.
Yeah, that was Sinner on the rise. But then on the contrary, we got Alcaraz, who's doing great this tournament, but he's more so like persevering than dominating, in my opinion. He went 5 sets with Fanini. He went 4 sets with Struff. He dropped the first set to Rublev. So like Alcaraz looks beatable, but only in small instances. Like I'm not worried about him winning matches. He just falters a lot, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing though, is like even when he goes to a fifth set against Foynier, do people actually expect him to lose in that fifth set? I mean,
No.
I feel like you go into that and the odds probably look like he's still the massive like minus 500 favorite, right?
Yeah.
It's different where I feel like Alcaraz, you almost expect him to lose match or lose sets rather because of how he plays, like his style. And but you don't actually expect him to lose the match when it comes down to it.
Yeah, it's funny. We actually expect him to win as the match goes on. Like he somehow just gets better. He gets a second win. This kind of reminds me of Roland Garros, where Sinner was just dominating the whole tournament up until the finals, whereas Alcaraz was dropping sets like here and there. So
Yeah.
pretty funny resemblance there.
Yeah, I think we predicted this, right? I didn't we say like Alcaraz was gonna lose like 6 sets before he made the final or something like that?
Yeah, we did. We did. And then in other news, we got Djokovic winning his 100th win at Wimbledon, and he achieved this at Roland Garros last month when we mentioned that, and we were kind of talking about like, all right, could he get it done at Wimbledon? And think the general consensus was yes. His other ones, he's got 99 wins at the Australian Open, so he'll definitely get that 100th win there. But the US Open, he's only got 90, so I don't know if that one will be attainable.
Yeah, I mean, he'd have to probably get like 5 wins this year and then 5 next year, right? That's how you'd assume he would get it done.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I
Not
mean,
easy to do. That would be what, a
yeah,
semifinal run at both?
yeah, that wouldn't, especially right now, but he's looking sharp. He's looking good.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's just classic Djokovic, right? I mean, he made the semifinal at Roland Garros, pulls up to Wimbledon, didn't play a grass tournament before, and it's like, I'm still going to be like one of the favorites and be almost guaranteed to make it in like at least the quarters, and then, I mean, he has a kind of favorable matchup, I'd say.
Oh yeah, definitely. All right, that about wraps up the first week of Wimbledon. Now let's get into the second week. Let's talk about the quarterfinal matches and preview those. So first, we got Fritz and Hachinov. I think Fritz should get this dub here. I mean, Hachinov just kind of snuck his way into the quarters. Like, listen to this draw. Listen to this route that he gets here. So he's got McDonald, Mochizuki, Borges, and then much. I can't say it. I literally can't say it, but
Dude, that's I feel like it's the epitome of a name that's like meant to screw with Westerners.
yeah, yeah. I got to get my Polish friend to help me out here. But on the other hand, are you surprised that Hachinov made it? I feel like we've talked about this before. He's the name that you just kind of see like, oh, he's in the quarters of a slam. Oh,
Yeah.
he lost first round. Like he flies under the radar.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of interesting because I remember they showed like that portion of the draw on the screen after I think the first day, and the draw just completely opened up in that area. And I
Mhm.
remember they were like, yeah, Hachinov has kind of a nice like setup to make a run here, and he ended up performing on it. So you got to give him respect for that. But yeah, I think the question is yeah, is his level actually at the same point as Fritz, even if Fritz is fatigued?
Yeah, and you brought up a good point about the first two rounds where he basically, spent 10 hours on court combined. Um, I think that could have helped him potentially, like just kind of get some confidence under his belt because he took out some damn good opponents. He played really well. He battled back. He faced a lot of adversity. So I feel like in that case, it could be like, all right, the worst is kind of behind me, and now it's, I could face anything.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, depends on his mental state. Yeah.
Yeah. And then next matchup, we got Djokovic and Kaboli. I don't really need to say much here. I think Djokovic is going to cruise through him, in my opinion. What about you?
I mean, you'd like to think that, wouldn't you? Right? I mean, it's Djokovic, but I mean, he's had the difficulties in the past with those random Italians, right? I mean, I remember he lost to
Darderi, right? Oh,
Nardi
Nardi.
randomly, like I think Indian Wells 2 years ago. Arnaldi maybe at another one. Uh, Darderi maybe. I don't remember who they all are, but there's a bunch of these random Italian players. So you never know how Djokovic might do in that case. But overall, I didn't even expect him to be playing Kaboli at this stage, to be honest.
Yeah, right. I mean, it was pretty funny. Like you were saying, he could potentially lose to, some random Italian. There was a Wall Street Journal article talking about Djokovic and like how this Wimbledon could be his last dance. And the author brought up like, oh, this guy holds the record for most titles, most slam titles for the men. He's got 24. He's like all his accomplishments. And then he goes, but then he still loses to guys like Opelka and Tabilo. And it was just kind of funny that like the dichotomy of Djokovic, right? Like by any means, this season that he's having is a good season, but to him, it's just there.
Yeah,
Like it's one of
it's the
his worst. And
funniest
like,
stat.
yeah.
I remember I said to you guys like after that Roland Garros loss, I was like I sent to you and a couple other guys, uh, like, oh, what a letdown for Djokovic, right? Like 2 semifinal runs in this year, which is like a career year for any other player, but for Djokovic, it's like, oh, what a disappointment. He hasn't won a slam.
Right, right. But yeah, no, going back to Kaboli, definitely can't discount him here. He had a big win against Mensik, which only won 3 sets. That was very surprising.
Yeah, that's kind of a
And then
statement,
from
right?
I was gonna say, yeah, but that was really his toughest opponent that he's faced, like the only seeded player in his run.
Yeah. And so like that's kind of also with Mensik, you wonder where the maturity and the experience plays into that. Obviously, he hasn't played that many matches at Wimbledon. And one of his first, obviously, Wimbledon's here. He's coming in as like a guy that's expected to make a big run, which is a little bit of a burden, right? I feel like usually guys show up and they're at Wimbledon for the first time and they're not really expected to do anything. Whereas Mensik here, maybe his second Wimbledon or something like that, and he's expected to make the quarterfinals.
Let me ask you this. So I've been seeing a lot on Twitter about how Fonseca is overhyped. Like all the hype should be for Mensik. Like Mensik's kind of getting overshadowed by Fonseca. Do you agree with that, or do you think that Fonseca deserves the hype that he's getting, and Mensik is kind of deserving to be kind of the second as far as that next gen?
Well, I think it's Fonseca deserves the hype because he has been performing super well and he's younger than Mensik and he's had a lot of big wins. He won the next gen finals. He has a very exciting style of play. All sorts of things are working in his favor. I think for Mensik, yeah, you do want to comment on him because he won the Miami Open a few months ago, right? Like that's a
Mhm.
big deal that I think has kind of gotten almost forgotten. But I also am like, yeah, you don't want to overshadow. You don't want him to be overshadowed by Fonseca, but it's hard to kind of balance the hype, right? And I think
Yeah,
usually the younger guy just gets more.
yeah. I mean, just to put things into perspective, Mensik won a Masters 1000, beat Djokovic, and Fonseca still has more hype than him.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
Pretty crazy. All right, let's get into the next matchup here. We got Alcaraz and Nori. I love this matchup. The last time they played was a Rio final where Nori got the best of Alcaraz, but then a week before that, Alcaraz beat him in the Buenos Aires final. So a lot of history there. And this was like peak Cam Nori too.
Yeah,
And we
and that
haven't
was
seen that
actually
Cam Nori.
also when Alcaraz, I think, was on like a huge win streak to start his season, right?
Yeah. So it
Back
was
in
impressive for Cam Nori.
2023. Yeah. I mean, I feel like Alcaraz and Nori, I mean, obviously they have a history, but you have to be completely in Alcaraz's corner here, right? I mean, when you look at Nori being here, it's like, okay, there's a British player in the semifinals. Who would have thought that it was going to be Cam Nori, right?
Yeah, not me. I could tell you that. I mean, I probably would have put Dan Evans above Cam Nori as far as like
Really?
who was gonna perform better as far as those two. Obviously, Jack Draper far and away from those two, but next up, I would have put Dan Scrappy.
That's crazy. Not even like
Yeah.
Fernley, or is Fernley Australian?
No, Fernley's British.
That's what I
Fernley's
thought.
British, and then I think there's Pennington too.
Oh yeah. But I guess these guys have the bigger names. I definitely would have put
Yeah.
them above or Evans above them, but I don't know. It's tough because Nori is just so inconsistent.
I know, I know. And then next up, we got Sinner Shelton. This will be a great matchup because up until today, we saw Sinner pretty much cruising through. Had a little trouble against Dimitrov, went down two sets, as we mentioned, ended up getting a lucky retirement. And then we got Shelton, who is, making waves here on this tournament. He's serving very well. He's hitting his backhand well. He's hitting ground strokes. And if you would have asked me before today, I would have said Sinner, no issue. But now, after seeing Sinner falter against Dimitrov, I could see this being a good match. I'm still going to lean Sinner, but if he's injured or if he shows any signs of injury, like he kind of did today, I think his elbow is bothering him. This could be a great chance for Shelton to potentially win a slam if he gets through here.
Yeah, and I think obviously Shelton has lost his last five matchups against Sinner, but he has beaten him once in the past. He beat him back in 2023, and I want to say Shanghai or Beijing, one of the two. But either way, I just feel like when you look at this matchup, Shelton's coming in, he's hungry for it, and he sees how Sinner performed today and was like, okay, there's an opening for me. You don't always see that, right? When you're going against Sinner, you're like, okay, this guy feels unbeatable at times. But after watching that match today, you kind of are like, okay, this isn't just all Sinner all the time. This could be my chance.
Definitely. And I think Ben needs to rely on his dad here, who's his coach, because when you play Sinner, you have to game plan it. It's not like you can go into the match saying like, all right, I'm just going to play my game and my game's better than his. Like Sinner is better than you. You know that. How are you going to beat him? That's the thing. You got to get tactical. And I think his dad, they will prep for this match. Let's just put it that way. I think they're going to try to pick things that they saw today where Sinner may have struggled against Dimitrov and try to exploit him there.
100%. Yeah, having a coach that is not only knows your game super well, but also is a former professional player like his dad was, and a high level coach in college. Like he knows what he's doing. So, not to say other coaches don't. Obviously, Sinner has a great coach over there too. But I also think just wanted to mention some interesting things. Like Shelton in his run here has actually played the other Italian, Sonego, now at 3 straight majors, which I just think is a funny coincidence in the draw. Like unlucky for Sonego, but I guess lucky for Shelton because he's won every time. Just wanted to bring that up because I thought it was funny. But also on Sinner's side, I wonder whether this has ever happened before, that you've had a player that was down 2 sets and then got the withdrawal and then went on to win the tournament. Like it would be insane if Sinner won this title now, given how close he was to defeat and not even having made the comeback.
Yeah, and do you think that would be kind of an asterisk title? Because even today, he kind of said he's like, "Hey, I don't count this as a win. Like I got very lucky." And so Sinner obviously kind of skated by with the drug test or the failed drug test, like best case scenario honestly happened for him. He gets this retirement here. I feel like if he wins the title, unfortunately, I think people are just going to be all over him about how he didn't deserve it, how he was going to lose to Dimitrov in the fourth round, yada, yada, yada. I'm just imagining Kyrgios right now on Twitter going after Sinner for this.
Yeah, well, I feel like Kyrgios is going to be going after him no matter what, right? Just jealous that he's not the one playing in the tournament, right?
Yeah, playing or broadcasting too. I thought he was going to be a broadcaster, but that didn't work out.
Yeah. But anyway, you ready to hop into segments here?
Yeah, let's do it. Hey guys, before we jump in, we have some exciting news. We recently partnered with TruePro. They're a great place to buy strings, grips, and tennis apparel. Use discount code Painting Lines, that's one word, for 20% off store wide. You can find the link in our bio.
Sounds good. So, what's new in tennis? What did you see this week?
Aiden, I got some juicy stuff for you, and I know this is going to be the highlight of your week finding this out. So, Tsitsipas and Badosa, they broke up again, unfortunately.
And I'm heartbroken.
I know, and this was my news of the week last year when they did it too.
Did
Hopefully,
they
they get
do it?
back
Did they do
together.
it at Wimbledon last year?
I wasn't at Wimbledon, but it was definitely within the last like year and a half. They
Oh
broke
yeah.
up, got back together. But this one seems to be for real. They unfollowed each other on all the social medias. They took down all their pictures together. Um, this is sad. This is because they were tennis's power couple, and they even put out, all these videos of them doing like shit together at the tournament. So
Yeah, I mean, my question now is right, like they were in the 2025 US Open mixed doubles draw. Now it's like what do they do now? Do they give that to someone else?
oh,
Or do they just say, "Yeah, no, you have to play?"
oh my God, that would be so funny if they made them play. They just be like arguing the whole time.
Yeah, so like you don't get your appearance fee for singles if you don't play in the
Yeah.
mixed doubles.
Yeah, I do not think we'll be seeing them, but I mentioned the Ivanisevic quote earlier about how he kind of just like went in on Tsitsipas. I feel like this has something to do with it. Like Tsitsipas is like life outside of tennis is kind of just interfering with his tennis career, and even as Ivanisevic is just not here for it.
Yeah, he's
He's
focused way
like,
more on this like relationship than he is about actually
yeah,
winning his matches.
yeah, yeah. But what about you? Oh, actually, I do want to mention one more thing that I saw. So Bill Ackman, the billionaire hedge fund guy, is playing in the Newport Open or Newport, yeah, Newport Open. It's Challenger now. Remember, it was a
Yeah.
250 before, and he's playing with Jack Sock. So this one's interesting because I've seen both sides. So people are pissed that he got a wild card into this instead of like an actual tennis player. But then again, he donates a shit ton of money to this tournament. So I feel like, all right, why not throw him a bone, give him a wild card? Apparently he's decent. He plays like at a pretty high level. He's still amateur. But I don't know. What do you think? Do you think this kind of like ruins the integrity of the game? Like just having billionaire amateurs getting wild cards to these tournaments?
Okay, few things here. First up, I'd never heard of this guy until you just mentioned him. Never. Who the hell is Bill Ackman?
Bill Ackman's
Secondly,
very relevant.
Jack Sock is retired, right? He's a pickleball player.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's question number two. Why would he choose Jack Sock to be his partner here? And the third point, I guess, is if he donates enough money, the open like the tournament can do whatever they want, right? So
Yeah.
I'm kind of in the party of I guess you can do that, but it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? Like the people that are arguing that it takes away the integrity are correct. It makes it so that it's not about just being the best player. It's about being you can just be a richer player, I guess, right? It's
Yeah.
like
Hmm.
in Formula One for another sport comparison, there are these drivers that they call pay drivers. Like famously, there's one named Lance Stroll who like they're in the sport not necessarily based on their talent level, but because they have just a bunch of money and that then they can just essentially pay teams to be on them. Like
Wow.
first in Stroll's case, his dad actually owns the Formula One team, so it's
Hmm.
pretty crazy. But that's essentially the way it works. Like, oh, this person's like the title sponsor, and they want this driver, so that driver's gonna be on their team. So I guess it's you're seeing pay players now for tennis, but yeah, it's pretty insane to see that. But I guess I mean, how old is the guy?
He is 59.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
this is it's not
So
even going to be like a
no,
competition, right? Like
no, I
it's
know.
just
I
a
know.
publicity thing. They're
Exactly.
Jack's. I'll say this: Jack Sock is not going to hit a single ball outside of a service game. It's
Yeah.
literally they're just going to target this guy.
Yeah, that is true. So you did mention like why is he playing Jack Sock or why is he playing with Jack Sock? Apparently he was supposed to play with Kyrgios, but Kyrgios pulled out because of the injury. So he injured or I guess like introduced him to Jack Sock. They haven't met yet and they're gonna play together.
Wild.
Wild. So all right, what about you? What did you see this week?
Speaking on injuries, I saw that Herkoch had another surgery on his knee. Uh, and I think there's kind of a good and bad take on this, right? Like maybe it's a good thing. I mean, it seems like he tried to rush back last year and wasn't really able to get back to the same level he was before. So it's possible that if he has this surgery, he takes enough time to recover, doesn't rush it, he could get back to a higher level. There's also like the negative side. This could be the beginning of the end. He's getting a second surgery on the same knee, different injury. Just feels like it could be sort of a avalanche of injuries in that area, and could be the beginning of the end.
Yeah, this is not good, dude. It's not what you want to hear. I was so bummed to see him pull out of Wimbledon because I feel like when Herkoch is playing well, he is, a pretty solid top 10 player with his ability and his skill. And he just kind of brings a new freshness to the game as far as like variation of play style because he's a big guy with a big serve, but also moves very well. And with both knees pretty much shot right now, it kind of takes away half of his game right there of just like being able to move. Now, either like you said, we could see him, just kind of slowly move away from tennis and just kind of drop out of the top level that he's playing, or just completely change up his game and turn into a complete serve bot.
Yeah. Anyway, let's hear your bet of the week. Who'd you go for here?
I'm going with Nori to win at least one set off of Alcaraz at plus 100. So I like these odds. I think Nori's going to get at least one set. He's been playing great tennis this tournament. Alcaraz is kind of known for just dropping sets here and there, like he's been doing this whole tournament. And I think Nori will have the crowd behind him, which should help, which at least like should energize him to win one set. Maybe because Nori kind of has a little bit of an unorthodox playing style, he like comes out strong, wins the first set, kind of like what Rublev did, and then Alcaraz just beats him the next three. But either way, I think Nori's getting one.
Yeah. I mean, the question here is like, does the fact that Nori's British kind of neutralize how popular Alcaraz is as a player, right? because
That's a great
Alcaraz
point.
is like known as like essentially the fan favorite at this point. And with Nori being British, does that kind of at least split the crowd and make it so they're not all behind Alcaraz?
Yeah, that's a great point. Alcaraz loves to kind of feed off the energy of the crowd, and like to your point, he is an entertainer and he does get a lot of fans kind of on his side. So I think it does play into it. And
Yeah.
what I was saying before, I think it's also like either Alcaraz is beating him so bad that he kind of just loses focus, drops a set, and it's like, oh wait, I got to close him out, or Nori comes out strong.
Yeah. The question though is like, if Nori comes out strong, gets a set, will there be a level to why like Alcaraz can't turn the crowd in his favor? It's like, because
Yeah.
I feel like that's what Alcaraz is often able to do is like, even if he's behind in a match, he turns the crowd in his favor. And then all of a sudden he feeds off that energy. If he goes behind in this match, they're probably still going to be rooting for Nori because he's a British guy.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it gets to the point where I feel like the crowd just kind of roots for whoever's down so they can see more tennis. But in this case, home crowd, I don't think so.
Yeah. Who knows?
All right, what about you? Who are you taking this week?
I'm going with the match we talked about at the beginning, which is Hachinov versus Fritz. Hachinov plus 250 over Fritz is actually the line here. And I just think that because of all the things I mentioned earlier with Fritz having so much time on court and Hachinov maybe having some confidence making it this far in the tournament, I think that it could go either way here. And I think plus 250 is nice odds for Hachinov overall.
Yeah, I like that. I'm definitely going to be rooting for Fritz, but I can see that paying off.
Yeah, but how about let's wrap it up with match of the week. Who'd you go for here?
Oh, I went with Shelton and Hijikata pretty much because I was there in person, as I mentioned before. This one was just great to see because Shelton's energy is just phenomenal when you're watching him. Like he screams a lot, he gets into it with the crowd. He's like, really puts on a show, I would say, and really like leans on his dad too, as far as like that dynamic on the court where you can kind of see like the frustration. He talks to himself as well too. It's really funny. Like he was sitting there about to return a serve and he just mumbled something. I don't remember what it was exactly, but the whole crowd just started laughing and like even Hichikata. So just like that part of being there. The match was pretty lopsided when it came to the score, but the actual match didn't reflect that. Like, how do I put this? It was a lot closer than the score line. Like, Hijikata had a lot of opportunities to break that he just didn't. There was a lot of 50-50 balls that could have gone either way or 50-50 rallies. Um, you know, great atmosphere overall. And then a little controversy too at the end. So this match, it was getting to the point where Shelton was up 2-love, as far as 2 sets to love, and then was up 5-4 in the third set. And when they did the changeover, the ref suspended play because of darkness. Shelton's like, dude, you got to be kidding me. Like, I'm literally going to serve this out. Hijikata, once he heard that, packed his shit up so quickly and just went off court. Everyone in the crowd was just like, one more game, like getting into it with the ref, booing him. The supervisor came out too. We were all booing the supervisor. And get this, Shelton comes out the next day, like warms up, all this stuff. 70 seconds, he gets it done in that last game.
Yeah, I
Three
mean,
aces, like just so funny that they made him play another game.
yeah, I feel like that's a situation where it really is nobody's fault except for the person that set up the rules, right? Like the umpires is doing this based on how the rules are set up. He's not just making an arbitrary decision. I'm sure he understands or she understands that this is like people don't. It's not going to be an unpopular decision, but
Mhm.
there's probably nothing they can do.
No, definitely. Well, we were actually surprised that the match even went on that long because it was getting pretty damn dark. Like I
Yeah,
was very shocked that they even played that third set. Because if I was out there, I'd be like, "Hey, let's postpone this because I can't really see." But
hundred
that's why I'm
percent.
not a professional. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that's the only reason why. How about you? What was your match of the week?
I'm gonna go all the way back to round one. I'm taking Fritz versus GMP. Uh, yes, it was a bit of a serve fest, but I feel like for serve fest matches, it was pretty much at its peak. You have GMP hitting the fastest serve ever recorded at Wimbledon, and he lost the point.
Crazy.
You have Fritz being down 5-1 in the fourth set breaker and then survives to force it to a fifth set. And then you have the fact that it had to be suspended after the fourth set and they had to come back out to play another set after or the next day rather. And so, yeah, you got all kind of the drama and it kind of set the tone for how this whole crazy Wimbledon was going to go. But just an insane comeback overall. I think the biggest highlight is obviously 5-1 down. Fritz is able to come back in that breaker because he then he was down two mini breaks in that breaker and had to break GMP's serve twice to be able to survive and was able to do it.
Yeah, if I'm GMP, I am losing sleep over this match because it was pretty much his to win.
100%. Yeah. He needed two nice serves. Yeah. Crazy.
So unfortunate. I got to say also honorable mention, Sonego and Nakashima. That was a 5-setter with 4 of the sets going to tie breaks. All very tight.
Just super tight match there.
Yeah. All right, and that's the show. If you're not already subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube at Painting Lines Podcast. Feel free to shoot us a DM or email us any questions or thoughts at paintinglinespodcast@gmail.com.